Neptune is about the imagination, the imaginal realms, your image-making capacity in your mind. The loss of the human imagination is a loss of our co-creative ability with the divine, because simply said, God created humans in her image. Image or imagination. We are made in the imagination of the divine. We are the divine. This is our imagination, this game of life, this Leela, this play. And Neptune will often vilified as drugs, alcohol, deception, illusion, delusion, madness. Of course, that's a shadow of Neptune. The highest Neptune is you become one with all things. You have lost your individuality to your totality. And that's not a small deal. That's enlightenment.
Lunatic Astrology.
We have something especially important happening in our sky. Neptune, the god of imagination, mysticism, and spiritual truth, the great dissolver, the one who also points the way to where we have illusions, delusions, madness, intoxication, but also conspiracy theory, and also the wool being pulled over our collective eyes. But those who would like to spin the narrative, these are Neptunian themes. Neptune in Aries turns retrograde on July the 7th through till December the 13th. And in that window of time, for the mystics, the magicians, and those of you who are really into your creative, artistic channeling of the muse, this is not a bad time. These next 5 months bring you in touch with your deepest soul essence and ask you to investigate the deepest part of who you are and to get into the aspect of life we would call surrender. The Neptunian archetype is connected to the 12th house of the astrology wheel, the moksha liberation, as well as the card, the Hanged Man in the tarot, which is an illumination of a halo of light on the suspended hangman hanging upside down. So where you need that illumination of deep spiritual truth, this is your window of time to receive it the next 5 months. Now, one thing about this Neptune and this story of retrogradation that makes it particularly special is that back in February on the 20th, Neptune joined together with Saturn in a 6,000-year conjunction. That's how rare that was at 0 degrees of Aries. The rarity of that conjunction on February the 20th with Saturn and Neptune together at 0 Aries gives this retrograde a special flavor. Indeed, Saturn is still sitting in the sign of Aries and will retrograde at the end of July. We have a co-presence of these two planets who have been talking to each other intimately since February 20th, now turning the tide backwards together. Sometimes I think of Saturn retrograde, and we'll be doing a separate video of a time where the outer hardships disappear, where that is easy comes into play. But at the same time, we're also getting more of Saturnian sage-like wisdom, more of the inner Yoda and the discerning qualities of Saturn in our lives. So between those two planets co-present in Aries and both by the end of July in retrogradation, there is a special time coming for us. Welcome to my channel. My name is Lori Lothian, and this is Lunatic Astrology, and this is Western Tropical Zodiac Astrology. In today's video, we're going to talk about how this retrograde impacts the world and your sign. Today's world astrology will be very light touch. It's mostly I want to speak to how you can receive this special energy this time around. We have the whole sign house system today on the screen when we show the chart. Please cast your chart in whole sign houses. Whole sign houses allow you to be able to use Time Lord tools in proper order. So how to cast your chart in whole sign houses, I have a free video tutorial in my description box below. Go ahead and get that. You'll need a birth time, of course. And I also will remind my editor Stella to insert before the all signs the new intro of how to read a sun, moon, and rising sign, so you have that at your disposal and you understand the difference between the three. Now, I've been looking at this Neptune story for a long time because I have 3 planets in Aries. I have my sun, my balsamic moon, and my Mercury, and Athena as well. And so anytime anything happens in Aries, guys, I'm paying damn well attention to that story. And I've noticed things with Neptune when he's in the sign of Aries, because he was here last year. He was here in March last year, the 30th or so of the month, all the way through to October 22nd, moving forward and then turning retrograde. And if you think about the vibe of that last year, how it felt to have him moving through the sign of Aries, then you're going to get a sense of how different your real life felt when it came to matters that are your whole sign Aries sky. For me, as an Aquarius rising, the whole sign Aries sky is my 3rd house of writing, communicating, marketing, selling, teaching and learning, short distance travel, etc. And if I go back to my life last summer to get a flavor of the energy that's so new for the next 14 years, Neptune will be in Aries. What did it feel like to be me last summer? And I'm asking you to do the same thing. I'll remind you in the all signs portion that could be your Aries 10th house of career, your 7th house of marriage, your 5th house of sex, romance, and children, where you have your Aries pie slice in your natal sky. But for me, as a content creator here on YouTube, and as somebody also who is invested in writing and communicating and teaching, when Neptune entered at the end of March through until next year, right? And like until the end, sorry, last year, 2025, March 30th to October 22nd, as he was spending his time in Aries, what I encountered was a new relationship to my astrological work, particularly coming into a deeper connection to the spiritual side, the transcendent side, and the mystical side of astrology. That's my personal story because that's where I'm using astrology in my teaching, learning, social media landscape. The other thing I want to mention about Neptune turning into this retrograde 5-month storyline, I would say don't try to make something significant new happening when it comes to Neptunian things of photography, glamour, storytelling, YouTube, and any videography platform that involves moving imagery, okay? Because really what you're doing is you're pulling back over territory that Neptune has traveled, beginning on his ingress into the sign of Aries this year in 2026 that happened on January the 26th. So there's something fundamentally about the ride you've been on, mostly kind of more true around February, but let's just say the end of January until this very moment, until we turn around on July 7th. There have been things that you've been working on. There have been activities that you've been engaged in. And that those things are particularly being revisited, revisioned, and reassessed from a deeper spiritual impulse within you and being investigated by your imagination. Caroline Casey wrote a book. I loved her book. I had a reading with her in Cabin John years ago. She's an astrologer. And her phrase that I've never forgotten ever is Neptune is about the imagination, the imaginal realms, your image-making capacity in your mind, the fantasy, the daydreams, the nocturnal dreams, the ability to read a book and imagine what the characters look like in your own mind without seeing it on a camera or a film. And that imaginal quality, we have an absolute dearth of it in our world. We are so given our imaginations to us on a frigging platter. Here's the movie, and this is what the character in that book looks like. But you read that book and you imagined the character differently. Sure, the author said brown hair and sultry eyes, but what you call brown, dark brown, light brown, what you call sultry is your own inner imagination of those words. If you watch a movie, the director and the casting people have defined those images for you. And I really want to say the loss of the human imagination is a loss of our co-creative ability with the divine, because simply said, God created humans in her image or imagination, right? We are made in the imagination of the divine. We are the divine. This is our imagination, this game of life, this Leela, this play. And Neptune will often vilified as drugs, alcohol, deception, illusion, delusion, madness. Yes, of course, that's a shadow of Neptune. The highest Neptune is you become one with all things. You have lost your individuality to your totality. And that's not a small deal. That's enlightenment. But on the way to enlightenment, we activate the cities, the spiritual gifts, and those come from our imagination. Give me an example, I hear you say. Well, what about manifestation? Do a vision board of what you want and see it come true months or years later. That's your imagination, right? Create a visualization of what you want in your imagination and watch it come true. And this superpower that belongs to humanity is being lost in translation because we have atrophied imaginations here. I'm old, I'm 64. My imagination isn't yet atrophied. I still have it intact. I read books all the time. I imagine fiction books, what is happening. And that's why I don't like Netflix. I love Netflix. Who doesn't love Netflix or Amazon Prime and binging on shows? But it takes away the power of your and my imagination because someone is imagining it for you. Hollywood and its industry of storytelling, screenwriting, and imaginary filmmaking, that is Neptune. That's one of Neptune's portfolios, right? Glamour, Hollywood, movie land, celebrity. However, think about the cost of having everything given to us on a silver platter instead of our imagination being able to create what we think the story is about, thus reading fiction. Or even when a screenplay is inserted into the hands of a director or an actress or actor, they're reading a screenplay and imagining the character. But by the time the product gets to us or a storyline, we don't have the power anymore. We're just given the imaginal output without our own imagination participating. I really want you to think about that. It's a lost power, and our younger generation is losing it on steroids. If you think that there is indeed a Yaldabaoth, that there's a dark force here, that we're run by archons, that the Sophia and the Gnostic truth is that there is a dark lord upon this planet, and he shall be called, whatever, Satan, then maybe the Hollywood film industry that we so love has created a place to diminish, disempower, and atrophy the superpower of our God-given co-creative abilities that exist in our imagination. So with all of that said, Carolyn Casey, the astrologer, says that Neptune is imagination, and that Neptune / imagination, okay, so imagination lays the tracks, like you would lay down tracks on the ground for the train, lays the tracks for the reality train to follow. And what that means to me is this: at 0 degrees of Aries, Neptune came together with Saturn at 0 Aries. Not haven't happened since 6,000 years ago. That's when we began to see a lot of culture, Sumerian culture, Mesopotamian culture flourishing as they began to harvest and grow things and began to have time to create, artifacts and rituals and Sumerian tablets and stuff like that. Like it's kind of like the dawning of the civilization post-deluge that may have happened 10,000 years before this moment. To me, there's something about that conjunction, the world axis of 0 degrees of Aries, that is about where our humanity is recovering our reality tracks that the imagination is a part of. Our imagination lays the tracks for the reality train to follow. And that's what's being asked of us now, because Aries is about I am. It's about identity. It's about the child, the youth, the baby, and what part of us wants the innocent reclamation of the potency of our personal ability to create and co-create as godlets on this planet using our imagination. So that's a lot, but I'm going to honor that truth for myself, and I'm going to use more of my imagination between the window of time that the retrograde begins, because the outer imagination is the direct motion, the obfuscation and conspiracy cover-ups and the spin cycles and the spin doctoring and the narrative control of the people is Neptune direct, including movies that come out during Neptune direct. Did Disclosure come out yet? Maybe not. Maybe it's after that. But Neptune retrograde is to pull back the tide. If you ever go to the beach and you watch the frothing waves, and in come the waves, and the tide is coming in, right? You don't know what's underneath all of that. But when the tide begins to go out, you see the starfish, the jellyfish stranded there, the weeds. Maybe somebody, dropped a bathing suit in the waves, and now you see someone's bathing suit bottom. Like you see what's underneath the froth of the incoming tide. That's Neptune direct. When Neptune pulls back the retrograde, it's like pulling back the veil on the Wizard of Oz. So we're going to see like disclosures, yes, but also revelations in the collective, including things to do with the e-files, including things to do with the real germinating causes of the wars that we've been fighting. There's going to be more disclosure, more whistleblowing, more clarity collectively about the things that have beguiled us because we're not being told the truth. And that includes the UFO phenomena. Okay, so I don't doubt that we're going to have more UFO phenomena disclosures and revelations that are actually useful and matter compared to what's put forth during Neptune's direct motion or even stationary position to retrograde. So look for all of those exciting things to occur. If you haven't liked and subscribed, would you consider doing that? If you're new, I'd appreciate it. If you watched 3 or 4 of my videos and you haven't subscribed yet, why not? And all my videos are all signs, and I also talk about the world story. I'm going to show you the chart right now so we can actually look at what the sky looks like. We've got some coolio asteroids involved. I think I mentioned them because I had to start over, but we have Aspelus, who's all about conspiracy theories. Icarus, somebody's going to fall from the power. Somebody The delusion and illusion of the power they hold will be stripped away from them or from the eyes of the world. We no longer respect that person in power. We're now demystified, de-deluded. We're clarifying. The fog is rolling back. The tide is rolling back. And we can see the scummy stuff underneath. So this is going to affect perception of a world leader for sure, because Icarus is someone who's high to the sky, close to the sun, then the wings melt, and then he falls to the sky and dies. Okay? Sometimes Icarus just means like planes falling from the sky. I hope not. But Neptune is squaring Icarus on the station retrograde. We're also going to talk about the setup, and you'll see what I mean, because at the moment something stations retrograde, it kind of bakes in a vibrational field for the next 5 months. So let's go ahead and look at that sort of baked in vibrational field. Oh, I forgot to share with you guys, if you want to study with me, if you're at all interested, I have my favorite course. It's my 7th year teaching, or 7th season of this course, Sky Reader. And it's to be your own astrologer, time your best life. I've got guest teachers teaching everything from medical astrology to astrocartography, but those are guest bonus teachers. My class that I teach for those 7 weeks is all about you learning to read your own sky reader, your own natal chart properly, and to use 2 simple timing tools that even a novice astrologer can use to time your best life and to be your own astrologer. So if you're interested, check it out below, because until the end of July, I have a deep discount code of $200 off. That's what I call the super early bird pricing. And this year's is going to be a week longer than last year's course. It's going to have an archival vault of all the guest teachers I've ever hosted on Sky Reader. So you have all these kinds of extra bonus courses you get to keep forever. So check it out. The website information is in the description box below. And I'd love to see you guys in class. And of course, I have Q&As every week. I have a Facebook community and a Discord community to meet other students. I have a support staff helping me, teaching staff helping me teach you guys so that you don't fall through the cracks. This is not a certification course. This is 7 weeks to get you up and running in the astrological knowledge that you need to work with life, flow with life, move with ease, and time your best life. So let's go ahead and get this sky up for you. So this is what the sky looks like on July the 7th. On July the 7th, what you're looking at is this. And you're going to notice a few little baubles of information that are probably got your curiosity up. First of all, you'll notice that asteroid America is traveling with the south node. Loss, surrender, release, decrease of volume, decrease of worldly success for America, asteroid America, squaring the Mars-Uranus conjunction. I'm recording on June 29th. This will come out. This is a Monday. This will probably come out on a Sunday. This is the July 4th problem for the United States, baking in a Mars-Uranus conjunction on its July 4th birthday. But my concern is, of course, it's commensurate with some kind of loss of the asteroid America and the South Node. So that's not easy. That's difficult for God Bless America. This is the house of America, God Bless America's leadership. It's executive branch. It's power. The leader power party, right, which happens to be Republican. And this is the ascendant of America here in Sag. And this is the open enemies of America with explosive kinetic energy. So this is not a good story. Just letting you know. I'll be doing more videos closer to July 4th, and maybe there'll be something in between, like a look at the US chart for July 4th. Probably on Saturday. This is coming out on Sunday. Go back to yesterday's video and take a look. Okay, but the second thing I want you to pay attention to is Icarus, who falls from the sky with wings that melt. It falls from the sun. The sun represents power and leadership. Someone falling from power, or literally something that goes into close to the sky, like an asteroid, like a comet, like something in our solar system, or a plane in the atmosphere falling from the sky. Because Neptune, stationing retrograde, right, is hooked up to that story. Although Neptune himself is a god of the oceans and the seas, maybe the thing that falls from the sky falls into the sea. Okay? Prediction, something may fall from the sky connected to the turnaround retrograde station on July the 7th. A few days before, a few days after. And may fall into water bodies near hot places, in far off places, or volcanic places even. Aries could be spewing hot lava. Also, here we have Asbolus, A-S-B-O-L-S. Asbolus, I'm going to read it to you. A-S-B-O-L. It is a centaur who was a seer, who could predict the future, in other words. And he saw a wedding that would lead to a battle between the species of the lapis and the centaurs. And he knew that things might not go right, or there could be serious issues here, right? that could be hidden from view. And so it's where you have a sense of what's really true and you know what's going on. If you know what I mean, like, I'm sorry guys, but does anybody really think that, Charlie Kirk was by the person who's accused of that unaliving? No, not most people who are in the know, right? And it's always the conspiracy theorists who prove to be right. Conspiracy is fact 6 months out. So there's things like where right? You knew it was a lab leak like I did, right? We knew. And it's like that inner knowing is being activated by the retrograde of Neptune, meaning that your inner knowing will deepen in the next 5 months. You'll have more ways of seeing ahead of the curve and knowing what it is. Now, it's so funny because the writer of the software says something like feeling persecuted for your beliefs. I'd say feeling persecuted for your deeper inner knowing when you call a spade ahead of time and people think you're crazy. Like I said, lab leak and proxy war for Ukraine, just like months after each of those things started, and the pandemic. And of course, it turned out all of it to be true. But I was so slammed, vilified, and hated in the public for speaking these words. So you may feel persecuted as well when you try to speak the truth of what you know to your friends or family or people in power. And it also says perceiving conspiracies, real or imagined. So, of course, some conspiracies are not imaginal, they're real. So, of course, you're perceiving real or imagined conspiracies, right? Take your pick. Then we get the Neptune retrograde pulling back the curtain on real or imagined conspiracies. Neptune retrograde pulling back the curtain on people in positions of power who flew too high to the sky and are ready for a fall. Technically, where could people fall from the power sky in the sign of Cancer? Because Neptune reveals things that were hidden that are now available to our visible eyes. Like spin cycles, narrative control don't work. Well, Cancer is a part of the sky that's connected not only to the sun of the United States and its executive branch in the Sibley chart, but also to the small nation in the Middle East that has a blue and white flag that seems to attack 6 or 7 of its neighbors at a time right now. That country, I speak in code, guys, because I'll be demonetized, deplatformed, and shadow banned. That country has its leadership 10th house space in the sign of Cancer. So the leader of that country or its power structures may be getting ready to take a fall, as there is a pullback of conspiracy theory that turns out to be true, not just around the world with popular disrespect and disrepute, but also within its own leadership structures or hopefully within its own country. We'll see what happens there. And then over here is Boracisi, exactly placed on top of Neptune. The asteroid or the celestial body Boracisi is a fictional story by Kurt Vonnegut in a story about a fictional religion based on lies. All religions are based to some degree on fictional narratives, but this one is a darker story. Let's create up a religion and get a bunch of people to believe in it. So a fictional religion based on lies. And so it talks about like deluding yourself. Like I'm going to read it to you because the software is a little bit better than my explanation. So the software defines Boracisi in the following ways. Wanting to believe something so strongly that you live as though it were truth, looking to find a reason to convince yourself that the lie you've told yourself is not a lie, and believing in something so strongly that your belief is contagious. You have this kind of magnitude of personal belief that everyone wants to follow you. Now, because Neptune's retrograding, false beliefs are being exposed because the dirty, mucky, gungy things under the pulled back of the tide are being clearly seen. So I think it's more along the lines of where we've been lied to or convinced ourselves that something is true, desperately wanting to believe. I desperately wanted to believe that, Trump's motives were true, that he was going to end the forever wars when I voted for him. I'm Canadian. I'm making something up. And now I'm seeing some evidence that maybe he never had that agenda in mind at all. Oh my God, I'm getting increasingly disillusioned, right? So where that disillusionment on the lies you told yourself about your own life or about the belief you wanted to hold in another person or another power structure, you're beginning to feel it pulling back. Right now, you're not so deluded by your own self-delusions, okay, where you decided to delude yourself as well. That could be deluding yourself about a relationship, about a job, about a person, a thing, and now you're going to pull back and inspect your beliefs a little bit more strongly. That's my take on it. Could be wrong, who knows? And we're just going to say the following themes for each sign. sun, moon, and rising. Where are you pulling back on a belief structure that doesn't really support you anymore? And you recognize you pretty well gave yourself a delusional, self-deluded storyline. And where do you have to be careful, cautious that you don't take a tumble from a place of power, Icarus? And also, where do you know what you really know, right? That's going to be Aspolus. And you have this knowing. You may not be able to share it with other people because no one's going to believe you or understand because you're not welcome, right, in your truth that you know. But that's part of what I'm seeing here as well. As Neptune turns retrograde for the world and for each of us together, you'll notice that he's hooked up to Uranus, of course, and to Pluto. And that's that mini triangle, that minor grand trine that's playing out in our skies that astrologer Andre Barbeau talked about years ago. He died in 2019, but he predicted a golden age for humanity emerging under this triangular story. And he predicted the pandemic accurately based on the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. He predicted the fall of the Berlin Wall. He predicted the 2008 financial scandal using his type of astrological approach based on the movement of the outer planets, especially when they clump together in one side of the sky more than they normally do. So what I'm going to try to mention is that this is still playing out. So this is a powerful energy and a rare energy, and it's informing the retrograde Neptune. So there's something like cosmically rare and potent going on here. And I'll mostly talk about watching out for this stuff because that's a square. This is like background music. I don't know, I'm not a musician, but it would be a bass beat behind the melody and behind the other instruments, like, some kind of rhythmic bass beat that's harmonious, though, and easy to listen to. And you know what I mean? It certainly isn't heavy metal. And that background sound, that background rhythm is playing out with that minor grand trine with outer planets. Yet on the front end of it, like on the surface in the foreground of the music, is like the melody and the lyrics. And that's what this sky is about, that square to, yes, the sun, to Boracisi, not to Boracisi, to Aspolus and to Icarus. Let us roll through the story. Let's start with Aries. We're going to go back by hours. Remember, this is a prediction for the next 5 months of your life, not the next day, not the next week, but the next 5 months of what this offers you in terms of new understanding and clarity. Defogging your windshield in your car is what I'm saying. Let's get going and talk next about your sign. All right. How do you listen for your sun, moon, and rising sign? People ask me all of the time. Let me explain it to you very briefly. When you were born, you were a spirit and you entered into the zone of matter, and you are playing here, hopefully, and having somewhat of a good time. And that's your sun energy. Your sun is your divine spark. It is your spiritual essence. It comes here from beyond space and time. It's ostensibly lived many different lives. And this aspect of you, this eternal nature, is one of the flavors of God or the divine or the creator or source. And you think about the 12 signs and the 12 sun signs, we have elements: earth, air, water, and fire. And we have modalities: fixed, cardinal, and mutable. You have a quality of the divine. You are an article of the universe, a tiny little spark of what is the one thing. And so when you think about your sun sign and you listen for that in astrology, you're thinking about your purpose for being incarnated. It often aligns you with career, aligns you with a sense of meaning. Your sun has to come into reality in a form called a body. That is your ascendant. Your ascendant is your character in the simulation of life. You could think of the sun as the movie actor, and you can think of the role in the movie that the actor is playing as your ascendant. So think about how your solar light infuses the character you're here to become and play. And that character is often cemented into being in the first 7 years of life. It's how you look, it's your personality traits and characteristics, it's how people respond to you, it's your mask and persona, and it's the vehicle for your spirit to play. And in many ways, it could be called a spacesuit. But I think this is a simulation. This ain't based reality. So in the simulation of life, like in the movie The Matrix, Neo is playing a character who works in an office in an unreal environment. And so your real self is somewhere else, but is playing this game. Now, when you think about your ascendant, you're going to notice that it's also very circumstantially accurate in terms of predictive value. That's because it's the beginning of the chart. It exists in the first house. It is what we call the helmsman energy, the steering wheel of your life. And often this part of the chart is going to be very sensitive to planetary transits and Time Lord tools. So you'll find it to listen in astrology for your ascendant or your rising sign is useful. To cast your chart in whole sign houses, you look below and get my free video tutorial. And you'll need to know a birth time in order to find your ascendant. Now, when you're listening for your moon sign is how you feel and how you think about your life. I think I think my partner's mean and not nice to me, and I feel really in love with my child or something. So your feelings are right here in the solar plexus. Your thinkings are up here, and that thinking feeling complex can be condensed into the word your mind. Your moon is your mind. It means many other things because the sun can represent dad, father figures, and moon, mother and mother figures, but it's also your response to life, your subjective well-being, half full, half empty cup. Your moon is how you emotionally respond and think and respond, because every feeling is connected by a thought, and every thought has a feeling. Trust me on that one. So you listen to the moon sign when you want to hear how you respond to life in that emotional mental capacity. And it will often connect to matters of home. I always joke, every time a moon is eclipsed in my chart, my Aries moon, I always have a move within months. In fact, I just moved to a new place that you're seeing here from the March eclipse of my moon. So ultimately speaking, your moon is sensitive to domicile and where you live as well. So hopefully that helps you listen for all three. When we do the moon and sun, we just rotate the chart to the first house. So if you have an Aries moon like I do, we just spin the wheel. So we're as if Aries is an ascendant, but we talk about it as if it's an ascendant, and we call it your moon in Aries and derived houses. Same with the sun. We rotate the sun to the ascendant. All right. Whew, hopefully that makes sense to you guys, and go ahead and enjoy the rest of the video where I do the all signs portion. Now that you know what you're listening for, at least you'll know what to expect. So basically, we're going to start with the Aries people, and then we're going to roll around the sky together. All right, Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. I am one of you. I have an Aries sun and moon. It looks to me like we are basically getting ready to strip away anything that we believed, that it really isn't about truthfully who we really are. If it's your sun, it's career disbelief or delusions or purpose delusions. Moon, delusions about your home. And of course, in your nest and your emotional life and your mind, your thoughts. You're stripping away your false beliefs, basically. Your rising sign, the whole character and who you thought you are. I am a wife, a mother, a superstar, a content creator, whatever. The I am blank, fill in the blanks. Your identity is going to have a pullback, and you're going to keep what's true and real and discard the rest. And anything you deluded yourself into believing, you're letting go, right? If I deluded myself into being a singer, I would be actually really deluded because I'm totally tone deaf, right? So if I had tried that, then Neptune goes retrograde in my I am identity house. If I was an Aries rising, I would be clearing up that misperception as fast as I can because other people are holding their ears. So just for Aries in particular, religious belief, because this whole Neptune spiritual belief structure, Aries Saturn compression, may ask you to look more closely at your beliefs about life itself and reality, including spiritual faith and religious belief. And so you may be inspecting more deeply in the next 5 months what you really believe about the way the world works, the way God or Goddess works, and what it all means to you personally. All right, so that's a big vibe there in the next 5 months. And then we talk about what to watch for here. Icarus falling from the sky in your fourth house. Well, it's a midnight hour. The sun don't shine down there, but it's dark nighttime. You've got your head on the pillow, and you've got this falling from the sky cautionary note. Now, it can be kind of a falling from the sky or falling from the heavens in relationship to that moon that's in your first house with you in this chart. So moon is your nest and your home and your emotions. Saturn is depression. This can be very much about anxiety or emotional anxiety or emotional discontent. So where you feel emotional discontent, can you do me a favor and translate that to divine discontent? Maybe your boredom, ennui, anxiety, frustration even that you're experiencing emotionally as this retrograde happens is a divine discontent, not a personal discontent. And I want you to investigate the idea that your unease is the greater unease. that your discontent is a greater discontent than just your personal story, right? Because Neptune would diffuse it and dissolve it into something larger, something more big than it is, a big fog around it makes it seem larger, a halo of discontent. And that discontent may be connected to your childhood. It could be connected to your parents. It could be connected to what you're doing in and from your home and the home life you're leading. I'll give you an example. I have somebody I know who's going to have her first child in this window of time, who's an Aries sun. It is very conceivable that she will find herself in a divine discontent as a female who's a working girl who suddenly finds herself at home with a newborn. And I've had that experience. I mean, some people say postpartum depression. That's a serious version of the exhaustion and lack of sleep and the discontent that comes with that when you're raising a newborn child for the first time, right? So when you see what I mean, this energy is at what you're feeling at home. You might feel like your wings are melting. You might feel like your discontent, frustration, anxiety, or whatever this is really intense. So be cautiously optimistic that you can translate this into a divine petition for help. Why? Because Neptune is here. He's a mystical, spiritual enlightenment guy. He's the hangman. He's the moksha liberator. So whatever discontent is happening from the home front, connected to your personal identity, career, or emotions, work with a higher power to relieve yourself of that discontent and the wings that are melting in the home life. Of course, ask Beluth here, what do you know that nobody else is going to listen to, and how are you feeling about that? How is it that your inner knowing, your inner warning bells, your inner canary in the coal mine about prophetic events, things that may happen? Maybe that you are being called a conspiracy nut, but you know the truth. Well, that's going to get like a bee in your bonnet here in your home life. Don't fight with your kids and your spouse and people you live with about what you know to be true, but damn well no one's going to believe you anyway, so why bother? Because ultimately what you're trying to do, Aries folk, I'm one of you, is work with this Neptune Saturn until April of 23 to lay the tracks with your imagination for the reality train to follow. And the tracks you are laying are the tracks of identity and purpose. All right, the sun is exalted in your sign. Identity and purpose. These are, I am so-and-so, and this is my purpose. Okay, I'm going to leave you with that. You got 5 months to deepen into the truth of that. I am so-and-so, and this is my purpose. Because ultimately, Saturn wants to make it happen and make it real. Neptune is the visionary idea of I am who and what, and this is my purpose. And this is really going to push you guys, because Saturn is the stabilizer and the concretizer, but Chiron's coming back to play in September. And so kind of like September 17th, when Neptune gets the heck out of there, September 17th to December 13th, that's going to pitch you like in a crucible of identity crisis, looking for deep truth and spiritual wisdom, and extending yourself beyond your own personal pain into a deeper connection with the divine. And it's going to activate a crucial energy around the key to purpose. So I'm giving you a way heads up about your life when Chiron backtracks there, September 17th to December 13th. So that's where the real pedal to the metal energy starts out. It may be a longer run for the Aries guys because it's in their sign. So don't complain if yours was shorter, will be shorter. Okay, you're a Taurus, you're made of earth, you're a fixed sign, you don't like change, and Venus, as the sky opens up, the Lord of your sign, why, gosh, goodness gracious, she's having a blast in your 4th house. Have you been having fun decorating your home? My Taurus daughter has been like decorating her home with wafer items, and she's loving being a decorator of her new home. So there's an example. So you probably been spending the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks decorating your home, beautifying your home, having fun in the home, pleasure in the home, female friends come visit you in the home, and stuff like that. But anyway, so the good thing is that's the backdrop story that you're going through at this time as this regression happens. July 7th to December 13th, we have a backtracking storyline. This is where the fog is lifting in the 12th house matters, where you've been self-deluded, especially with Boris Cece, and not facing reality, Saturn. Now, this is definitely the house of self-undoing. What kind of self-undoing? Mostly addictions, sometimes treacherously bad habits, sometimes the way you undermine yourself, like you're your own worst slip-up artist. And so that saboteur within. And you may say, no, I'm doing my best. I'm like on my A game, everybody. Just look at me. And then you really have another way to look at it now, because Your self-delusion, the lies you've told yourself, are being pulled back for your low tide moment, what's under the froth of your self-delusion. What do you mean you're going sober? You're drinking, you're drinking, hidden drinking in the bathrooms at work, and that kind of thing. So now you're going to face the music, face the clarity of where you are your own worst enemy. And you're going to do that because you're going to do that. And Saturn is going to help you make the tangible results really worth your while for inspecting your own self-undoing and self-delusional tendencies. Because there's enlightenment here in the 12th house, you're conceivably, if you're spiritually motivated, experiencing a real spiritual awakening through the great dissolver, Neptune, where the parts of you that must fall away, as including past life, karmic obligations, ancestral line patterns that you're bearing on your own shoulders that don't belong to you, you'll see the tide pull back for a clarity, a clarification, and a clear seeing of what it is that is holding you back. You can't fix a problem until you define it properly, right? So for example, if you did have a problem with an addictive substance, you might just say, I love the pleasure so much I can't stop. Then you kind of pull the tide back, maybe psychotherapeutically, and you say, oh my God, I haven't dealt with the trauma of some event in my life, and I'm trying to mask my pain. So when Neptune retrogrades, what the causal agent of your discontent and your self-undoing will be revealed to you. And you'll know how to then heal it, or feel it in some way. Watch your back on your third house storylines, because that's where you have Icarus and the wings are melting. Now, the third house is other people, like your neighbors, your siblings, your friends from childhood, and they may have some wings that are melting, or your relationship feels a little melted down, and it's ruled by the moon, which is with Saturn, which can bring frustration, depression, anxiety to the forefront. But you may be having those anxieties about that friend from your childhood, about that sibling, about that neighbor, about that cousin. On the other hand, this part of your sky also can represent elements of your own mind, how you think, your ideas, and also your output in the idea of writing or teaching or selling or marketing, or anything to do with the social media sphere. If your wings melt in the social media sphere, you were reaching and striving for some level of superpower to power, and you might be falling away and falling from the sky from that overreach and that hubris. You could also find that this could be more subtle, right? Because your mind control is that agenda here. So the first house I am, the second house I have, and the third house I think. So your thoughts can have a kind of, I got caught up in thought structures that caused me to feel like I'm falling from the sky and I'm melting here. My wings are melting. So this could be good. This could be a restructuring of your thoughts. Don't forget, Saturn wants to make imagine Neptune wants to lay the tracks for the reality train that Saturn is choo-chooing along in. Be careful if you're traveling, because Neptune and Saturn, if you're struggling with addictions and then you're going to travel, maybe the melting wings is a downfall from your recovery path of some kind. And that would be a danger for you to watch for in the next 5 months until December 13th. But you'll get back up on the horse, but it's just a warning. And then Asbolus is the seer who could foresee the war that came from a wedding. And so it's about your inner knowing, your foresight, your seership. And this is a house of seership anyway, the goddess house. So use your deeper intuition to avoid calamities and falling from the sky. Use your inner knowing about what will happen or what is to come, and then avoid what could cause the wings to melt in your third house. And lastly, yes, this is a retrograde sextiling Pluto and Juno in your 10th house of job, work, and career. And it is feasible that it could simply open up with Uranus and Mars an exciting, sudden, surprising opportunity for a new employment position or job or work path. And the contract is here, but Neptune retrograding in the 12th with Saturn, the isolated one, in a sign of frontiers and remote places, Aries, could indicate that the opportunity will either put you into kind of remote work, doing remote work, working from home a lot, working for a foreign company, or working in a foreign land. So those are other possibilities, especially since Saturn owns your 9th house of the foreign places and people. So on a practical note, the retrograde of Neptune could bring that to you, but I want to give you a heads up. Neptune retrograde, well, you can see clearly whether you want that opportunity or not, can take you back to the past, specifically things that were in play February until this moment. Okay, so starting in February until, let's say, mid-February until now, what kinds of opportunities were sort of coming out of the woodwork for your work and job that didn't quite materialize? I mean, because you were looking forward to it and you were thinking about it, but it hadn't quite come into tangible realism yet. This could be a retrenching of that energy, and the opportunity that did not quite materialize is now being able to be received by you, but also you're much clearer about it as well. There's no delusions about it either. But if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, and don't forget, come join me in Sky Reader and learn how to read some of this stuff for yourself. Give you a fish, right? Instead of me teach you to fish instead of giving you fish. All right, Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising, KORS, 325. You are going to experience this story under a lot of intensity just because you've got that Mars-Uranus conjunction happening at the time of this retrograde. So it bakes it in for you. Like all the Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising, you're breaking free, breaking through, breaking down. You're having dynamic electric currents of insight and awe, but you also are going to make major life decisions under this Neptune retrograde. Major turning point decisions will have to happen. And it's specifically turning point decisions in the retrograde period, December 13th, July 7th to December 13th, about your career, particularly about the way you earn money in your career and your long-range goals and plans, your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan, your 3-year plan. Those are being highly re-envisioned. And it's going to also be like, where are you seeing more clearly and truly what those plans are for the gains of your career, the 11th house, in ways that are sustainable and realistic, Saturn? Because when the Neptune retrograde happens, he'll be pulling back that wave froth on the beach and the tide is going out, and you're seeing the things that are underneath the froth of hope and delusion and rose-colored glasses, so you can inspect it carefully. This is allies and benefactors. This is a sibling one older, and this is friends and friends who are your network friends. Those people too, are they good for you or are they not good for you? You're reassessing that. You're looking at it closely. Is this my crew? If you're trying to go sober, that's what Saturn Neptune together is, sobriety. On any kind of flagrant addiction, then the people you choose in the company you have will be important. And this will be a clarity about, yeah, it doesn't really serve me to go out and party with the hardy party crowd because I don't want to be intoxicated right now. I'm trying to be deliberately sober or clean. So there may be this kind of real hardcore decisions you make about your networks and social groups, and you might move into something new. And if Neptune's retrograde, you might move into spiritual community or sobriety community or something like that. Or CC, of course, was the delusions you told yourself and the lies you told yourself. Yeah, I can be completely weed free, but I go to a bunch of guys' basements every week and we watch cartoons and smoke weed or something. You realize it's just not, you're too tempted, right? You're not just going to sit there without your friends joining in. So you've got to be realistic now about those social circles that are undoing your long-range plans and dreams and goals, as well as your attempt to have a structured vision and a new direction for what you want. Because this is what this is. Until April 2028, you're making your dreams come true in your career gains and your visions of your career and your wishes for your career. You're retired. Kelly, what is your purpose in life? What are you doing out there that you want to see accomplishment in? That's all I'm saying. 10,000 is your visible actions in the world that demonstrate a success or accomplishment in the eyes of the world. What are you wanting to add to that? Do you want the world to see you as the best bowler in the world? Great. Then you're going to work on your bowling score and you're going to get fit and enough to bowl well. I don't, you know what I'm saying, guys? When I get these retirement questions from you guys, I'm always baffled. Career and reputation, purpose and visible actions, 10th house is what I'm saying. Because there's a square down here to wings melting, be careful. Wings melting in a money earnings house. It doesn't mean your money's going to go away. It could, but it probably doesn't. It means that you are literally burning up under the sun and you're going to take a fall because those wings that took you so high in the earnings sector may melt. And if they melt, you're going to crash and burn. You're going to fall. Maybe you just can't go on anymore. It's too much work. Boy, I'm a progressive Gemini sun. I'm trying to find the balance point between teaching, content creation, writing at Substack, and on it goes. So I can see that as a progressed sun in Gemini, progressed planets are secondary to natal positions. I can see how I'm going to work with being more realistic and less delusional about how much energy I have in order to continue to work at this pace. The moon is the ruler of Icarus, and the moon's with Saturn, which can be emotional discontent or constriction because of something like a burnout pace of some kind in some area of your life connected to money and money that you possess. We can also imagine that you have Asphalus, who tells you that you have a deep inner knowing, that you have a predictive ability, that you're a bit of a seer. You could use this seership energy in order to generate revenue that comes from investments. But if you're going to do that, be cautious, okay? But you can do that here. Just be conservative. Saturn means cautious investments, right? Can lead to different income sources. That's because Saturn rules your 8th house of finance, including stock markets, banking, and all of those industries. Chiron will come back from the 12th house into your sign. September 17th to December 13th, you'll have Neptune still retrograde and Chiron. Look to the chironic wound you have around identifying your truest long-range vision for your life. Look more deeply at the wound you have in relationship to certain types of friends and groups that you've chosen to associate with, and look at the ultimate wound you have as well in connection to a sibling one older. You'll be really able to focus more realistically on those wound points, as I mentioned, in that shorter window, September 17th until December the 13th. All right, Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. Here we have a story for you. It's going to be like Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. It's going to be a story where you're really looking at your own story really closely during this retrogradation because of this whole Sun, Mercury retrograde, of course, and then this Absolute and Icarus energy. You know maybe that you've gone really high in some area of your life, particularly your career. You've been peaking out here. You've been reaching some height in your identity related to your career. And this is fine because maybe it feels like, wow, this is fabuloso. I'm enjoying the ride. I'm making more money, the sun says, possessing your second house. And so you're like, okay, it's worth it. I'm successful here. I feel more rewarded on the material wealth and material reputation and, fame, glory, success, money, all that kind of stuff. Feeling good about it, maybe. But the wings may be melting. You have to be careful you don't take a fall. Funny, my sister Nancy fell down the other day and hurt herself. And Icarus is in the sign of Cancer, right? So she fell because Icarus falls down, but usually from the sky. She fell down on the lawn, but there's fall energy. So be careful with your body as well. But you can't be careful for 5 months, but just know there's messages here for you to consider where you're reaching really high and you might also melt and fall. Your wings may melt. Second of all, the melting can be connected to your career for sure because the moon rules that Icarus right now in your sign. The moon is your ruler and the moon is up there with Saturn. And it can be like emotional compression, emotional restriction, emotional burnout, or a lack of an enjoyment at an emotional level of some kind of career path that you're on or job that you're in or work that you're doing. And, or if you're retired, how you're seen in the world and what you're doing to be in your own sense of accomplishing something in your retirement, and you might be going like, this is too much work. I'm not too sure about this. I want to like pull back or something, because that's what this guy might do in Neptune retrogrades for the 5-month period, especially after Saturn retrogrades at the end of July, giving you kind of like August, September, October, November with a deep clarity about what it is that you realistically can or cannot accomplish in a professional career direction or reputation direction without feeling like you're physically falling. And that could include health challenges or emotional stress levels being too difficult for you to continue going in that pace or direction. So you're no longer going to tell yourself a delusional story, the lies you tell yourself, Boris Cece, the delusions of your own self-deluded ways. You're going to be more clear, and you're going to be more concrete about your boundaries with your boss, with your colleagues, with your coworkers, with your job description, and how much of you put into it, and where you say, no, basta, enough. I cut it off here. Asbolus is here, and Asbolus is your inner knowing, your seer. This is a part of you that's like, I can see the trajectory of this. If I keep going, there's going to be a war. If I keep going, I'm going to burn out. If I keep going, I'm going to be ill. So you can see your own trajectory clearly. You've got this knowing deeply inside of you. No one else may believe you, because that's unfortunately the story of Absolute. Nobody believed him about the wedding and the war that would follow, but it's your own inner advanced guard of understanding that says, wait a minute, if I keep going like this, I'm going to be burned out. This is not sustainable, or I could injure myself, or my health may suffer in some professional capacity, most likely. There can be people associated with the 10th house. In this case, maybe your spouse, because Saturn rules your spouse. It could be a father figure or a spousal figure, and you may be contemplating that burnout connection or that burnout dynamic between you and that spouse, or you and that father figure. And so there may be a recognition that the dynamic between you and those types of people is untenable or unsustainable at this time, and you might want to reconfigure around that, especially if you already have a spouse. Yeah. And or your boss, authority figure, and this compression around your boss and what you can actually do or not do for that boss or that person above you in authority structures. The thing I want to mention is, with Mercury retrograde in your sign anyway, right, from the 29th of June to July 23rd, you're already ruminating. You're already backtracking. You might be getting ready to change your mind on something. So starting around June something, I can't remember the date, sometime in June, Mercury entered your sign of Cancer. He doesn't leave until August the 9th. You got a lot of back and forth and a lot of latitude to change your mind on things you said to yourself or to others. Yes, I'm down for that, including your spouse, including your boss. So beware that you are in a big reassessment window right now anyway until July 23rd, shadow time of reassessment August 6th, clearing the whole story by August 9th. So keep that in mind. Is a part of where you are is to rethink things right now, and it's okay to change your mind, especially around matters related to your career under this retrograde Neptune cycle. When we have Chiron coming back, of course, into the story, which he will, on September 17th and through to July 13th, we have retrograde Neptune and Saturn, but Chiron. And so Chiron is like, what's the key to purpose? Like, I don't care if you're retired, what's your purpose now, right? What's your key to expressing a meaningful, purposeful way, your unique talents and gifts that you, and hard-won life lessons that you've learned? What's your medicine for the world? And you're going to ask that question when Chiron returns for his last day in your 10th house. And it's going to be more acute for you because it finishes next April. It's going to be more intense for you, acute, intense, poking at you for those 2 months I just mentioned, mid-September to mid-December. Indeed, that might be a turning point decision around ending a job or career path or professional direction at that time. Don't worry about money. You're going to have Jupiter planting golden money eggs in your second house for a whole year. If you need to step aside from some professional obligations, the money will emerge in another way. Jupiter is your Hail Mary pass. He'll provide money as you need it, no matter what. Right, June 30th of this year to July 23rd of 27. So you've got a saving grace here to step back from any professional obligations that are going to physically drain you and emotionally drain you as well. And so we're on to the Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising people, and we got Neptune retrograde for a 5-month story, and very rare, of course, as I said in the beginning. Please watch the introduction about how rare all of this is. But as Neptune is retrograding, Boris Cece, where have you told yourself lies? Where have you deluded yourself about the key of meaningful dharmic aligned purpose in your life? This is your dharma. This is your alignment to purpose. Where have you been self-delusional? And now you're going to have to reassess this and stop telling yourself lies. This includes religious lies. You know, if you've been like totally down the rabbit hole of your, I don't know, your Catholic confirmation or your bat mitzvahs, bar mitzvahs, or whatever rituals there are of, I believe in God the Father, creator of heaven and earth. I believe in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord. The mantras of religions, right? This is up here. This is not what you're going for, because Neptune is enlightenment, spiritual awakening, oceanic consciousness, compassion and forgiveness energy at the highest level. And it's not a set of laws and rules in a book or taught by a preacher or a pulpit. And so this is where Neptune's with Boris Cece, the god of a fictional religion. I'm saying if you have a religious belief, you're going to break with it or reassess it or realistically inspect your beliefs if they're tied to official religion, any kind of religion. That said, it's just your belief closet. Ninth house, I call the I believe house. What do you believe? Because what you believe is being reassessed, not just religious belief, belief in general. I believe all people are good. I believe the universe is a friendly place. I believe that hard work pays off. That's probably good beliefs to hold, but you'll inspect beliefs because some of them are almost fictional lies you've told yourself just to get by. You know what I mean? Everything happens for a reason. Like that's a panacea. That's everything happens for a reason. That is your soother that a baby puts in, you put in the baby's mouth to stop it from crying. Yes, everything happens for a reason, or everything's happening the way it should, or everything works out for the best. But those beliefs can hold you back from doing changes in your life that help things work out for the best, because it's just kind of like, you know? So the beliefs are being reevaluated in the next 5 months so that you can harness beliefs that bring reality structures you actually desire to make your dreams come true. Neptune, Saturn. Neptune is your imagination. Harness your imagination. Your imagination lays the tracks for the reality train to follow. And this is a part of your chart that says, do you want to go back to school? Do you want to go to university or college? Do you want to travel around the world? Do you want to align with your deepest purpose? Do you want wealth and power, Lakshmi energy, but in alignment with structure and forms that are true to who you really are? Because that's what's going to be asked of you. That if you want that luck and that wealth that this kind of energy can bring, a fire trine from the ninth house, it has to be purposeful and meaningful to who you are rather than just chasing the paper. And finally, Jupiter's in your sign, protecting you, protecting your health, giving you luck, watching over you, making you pregnant, gaining weight or muscle. That's your story in the next year. Grandchildren can be born too. But you got lucky Jupiter with you for a year. So this retrogradation has got some divine protection for your sun, moon, and rising in Leo anyway. Now, some of you might be deluding yourself about court cases connected to divorce settlements or being unrealistic or what do you call avoidant of those things, because this is where I see the Pluto Juno marriage goddess energy playing out, and there may be some real needs to be realistic about the legal entitlements you may have in a divorce settlement separation possibility, whether it's happening or you're imagining it'll happen one day. And this could be a real sobering time, but also a good time, because you're going to be able to put your ducks in a row now that you consulted the lawyer. Athena in the ninth house is your lawyer, and the lawyer is being realistic and giving you the structure you need to get going. Come on, you've got the moon here, and you might be frustrated, overwhelmed, and anxious about the whole storyline, telling yourself fairy tales that, about legal outcomes that aren't true, bad or good, like worst case, catastrophizing. And this energy wants to be shifted. Okay, that's the point, shifted. The nullification of that concern that you might have may come because of two things. First of all, where are your wings melting? They're melting in the 12th house. Why are they melting here? Are you spending any time in solitude or too much time in solitude? Either extreme means your wings are melting. Are you avoiding your nighttime dreams and the messages thereof? And are you stopped dream journaling? Have you stopped listening to your synchronicities? Mercury retrograde, the voice of God. It's asking you to go back to the basic line of, I hear the still small voice within in my solitude, contemplation, and inner life. Go to your inner life. If your wings are melting, maybe you don't have enough of it. Time down, downtime, alone time, contemplation time to hear your own voice, the voice of your soul. At the same time, there is absolute here, aspolus here, aspolus. It's the hardest thing to say. I want to say absolute, but it's aspolus. And this is a seer who foresaw a catastrophe of a war ahead of everyone else, predicted it. So where is your inner foresight telling you to be careful that you're not giving yourself the ashram, the restoration, the inner life, and the solitude that you need? Very likely you're not getting enough. I doubt you're going to melt your wings because all you're doing is meditating in the ashram. Unless, of course, you're in jail. If you're listening to this and you're in jail and you're worried that the court and the judge won't release you, That's the only other thing I'm saying. Your wings are melting because you're spending too much alone time in solitary confinement, and you have this worry up here that the judge won't favor you. But there's a strong lawyer up here, and ultimately, the lies you tell yourself could be your fears rather than the actual truth. And maybe you will be absolved of your sins, so to speak, and get out of jail here. Okay? You got Jupiter giving you luck. If you're trying to get out of a legal sentence or a legal conundrum, especially if it could involve jail time, I think you're going to come out okay. That's just for the very, very few of you who are facing jail time. Oh, yeah. And you know, other Leo risings are Donald Trump, right? This is also hospital time. So jail time, hospital time, anxiety and fear, concern. But you can see the inner wings are melting in a hospital. You see the inner knowing. You see the way forward. Code for you, go inward. Find your divine connection. Get your hotline to God up for those of you who believe in a higher power or the power within you, and start operating from that operating system. Because ultimately, the good part of the ninth house is one of the fortunate houses. And it's a metacosmos house that it connects you to that which is beyond this world, that which is beyond this cosmos, beyond meta, this world. That can be angels, guides, spirit guides, and the divine itself. That's my advice. All right, now we're going to talk to you guys here, and you are the Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign people. You're looking up at the idea here of a major retrograde, rare 5 month period, July 7th to the 13th of December, to pull back your own illusional stories regarding your 8th house. Now, yes, it's chunky money, and it could be delusions about the money your partner and you share in life, your in-law monies, the money that you get in a divorce, the money you might have from an inheritance, and the fantasies and the fictional beliefs that you've given yourself to rely on those. But it's the spiritual house, and Neptune is a spiritual planet and a mystical planet. And the spiritual energy of your 8th house is occult wisdom and knowledge, and awakening from the egoic construct of you, moving yourself beyond the boundaries of the little self into the vast totality, and understanding you are more than meets the eye. So there's super spiritual, powerful energy playing out for you, and it activates all of your moksha houses 4 and 12. And Jupiter is guru or teacher in the 12th house of full enlightenment. Some Virgos are looking deeper for removing themselves as well from substance abuse habits, addictions, and misuse disorders. But you'll do that through education or teachers, guides, or mentors. Jupiter in the 12th. You may find you get some traction because you're facing the music realistically about where you're stuck in recovery energy or self-undoing and removing your sabotages. And now you got this kind of sober realism instead of confusion or delusion. Your in-laws belong to the 8th house in Vedic astrology, crosses over nicely with Western. So there may be some clear realizations you have about your relationship to your partner's family. Okay? Maybe sobering or difficult, or a reality check of some kind, because you're seeing what's below the froth of goodwill or hope for goodwill here. There is a potential under this kind of a sky to experience some pullback by Neptune regarding inheritance money. But if there's inheritance money involved with Jupiter in the 12th house, that's a hospital setting. Bounty comes from hospital settings, but there is a real clear understanding of what this means for who you are. The moon is with Saturn in a house of the psyche and the psychological aspects of life, the soul as well. And divine discontent is definitely here for all Virgos. You might be trying to mask a divine discontent, the dukkha, the dissatisfaction with life. You're trying to mask it with pleasure. Why? Because of the baked-in Jupiter excess, Venus pleasure. What are the pleasures? Is it sex? Because this is bedroom. The 12th house is bed pleasures. Are you trying to mask sexuality, romantic love, pleasure, orgasmic pleasure, addictions, and debauchery? Instead of, because you have a divine discontent, you're not feeling all is right with the world, and you're not happy you haven't experienced the existential joy of being. You're coping, and you're trying to get by with the things, the temporary pleasures of life, and it's not working. And this is going to show you that, because this retrograde will clear the way for you to see clearly why that is not a viable structure for your soul. And you've done this soul work before, guys. You've never had Saturn and Neptune in your soul work, moksha, liberation, 8th house. So it's new for you to actually inspect the stories you tell yourself, that my life is happy because I'm sexually active, have a partner, that because I'm married, because I have money, because I have a lot of good food and wine in my life, and wine, women, and song, weed, and whatever else. So these things that are temporarily enjoyable are not deeply satisfying. And you're going to know that because the pullback is going to tell you that. And you'll say to yourself, wow, all the glitters is not gold, right? You're going to say to yourself, all these worldly things are no longer tempting me the way they used to. I want to go deeper. So you'll see what I mean. And even if you think that I'm not telling you the truth, come back to me in 5 months. And this is what you're like from July 7th to December 13th. Okay, look to your friends. Look to the people that you trust. Look to your social groups and friends that you trust to be your seer, to be your guide, to be your inner knowing absolute person or a sibling one older, to tell you like it is, to give you the warnings, and to consult with that person. Otherwise, by the way, your wings might be melting in your 11th house. Some friendships are melting down. You know it. Mercury's retrograde. Friends from the past are coming back, and you're feeling like it's burning you out to be around them. This is not your crew. But there's also the potential with the Icarus energy here from something to do with your work itself and the path of work you've taken. It's burning your wings and melting your wings because, of course, Mars and Uranus in your 10th house say shocking or surprising or unexpected change of career or work or job, especially with Pluto here in your 6th house with Juno. So there's some kind of earth-shattering change of professional direction for a lot of you in the next 5 months, where you realize like all at once that maybe even though you're doing some kind of livelihood that's okay, it's also pulling something away from your ability to take time to visualize what you want, to really dream your life into being, because you're just running on some kind of advancement treadmill here. And it's, by the way, giving you a definite feeling of burnout, because Saturn is your emotions. Saturn, Neptune, Saturn and the moon is like emotional compression, and secrets are burning you out. Especially secrets you keep from your elder sibling, one above you, friends and allies and benefactors, and secrets you keep from yourself. So you're going to learn to tell yourself the God's honest bottom of the barrel truth about what you really want in your life, and what you really want your career to look like, and what you really want your deep satisfaction to come from. It looks like Libra, the marriage partner, the business partner, the audience in the marketplace has the pullback of clarity from delusion and obfuscation July 7th to December 13th in a once in a lifetime, first in a lifetime Saturnian way. Now, let's put it to you clearly. If this is a business partner, client, audience member, or spouse, what are they going through? Because this is like your spouse is coming to sober realism about something in their life. And they may be assessing their life from a hardcore space. You're watching it from over here, right? You're just eyeballing the whole thing. You're here because Venus is your ruler. You're like looking at them fondly like you're their best friend. You want to help that business partner. You want to help that important friend. You want to help that spousal type person or committed love person. You're allying up here, but hey, you're able to witness them. This is probably not your journey. We mistake the 7th house as a part of ourselves. It's not. It's the other person. You're born with Saturn in the 7th house. It just means you're going to marry someone 7 years younger or older than you minimum, and or you're going to park your ass into a long-term marriage. But it's not really about you, right? And you might think your partner is controlling or a heavy weight of baggage in your life too. So it's the other people. And so your other person is going through a heavy time, Saturn. They're feeling burdened. They're feeling a little bit fallen. Saturn's in this fall. They've got Neptune, illusion, mental health challenges, cognitive decline, addictions, and they're coping. And this is the lies they tell themselves, the Boris Cece moment that gives them the stability, Saturn, to clear up their own confusion, their own mental challenges, their own emotional issues, anxiety and depression included. So you're watching someone in your sphere of influence that's important to you work through this story, okay? Go back and listen to the Aries segment. the first segment, because for Libras, what I said for Aries people gives you a window of insight into what someone you know and care about is going through. Again, an important business partner, an important friend that you've had for years, like even an ex that you're still in touch with, your current long-term love partner. Go back and listen to Aries, because this is the story of maybe that's mostly about them. Qualification. If you have a job that you're going to or have signed contractual legal agreements with the employer structures of a workplace, then there's something to be said here as well. Because you'll see that you have your wings melting in the 10th house. Now that's your reputation. Divorced, married, widowed, separated, social standing. And you feel like your wings are melting in the public eye. So maybe you're having a divorce and you're feeling absolutely, embarrassed by the failure of your marriage and your wings are melting, but it's also your career. And so where are you feeling overstretched? You've reached high for power. You're at the top of the sky. You're close to the sun, and now you're falling. And now you're falling because you overstretched yourself too close to the heat, and the wings are made of wax. And you're falling to the earth, coming back down to earth because of an overextension in the career. Sun is up there, big spotlight in the career. Mercury's retrograde. You're going to be reconsidering anyway till July 23rd, your career path anyway. And I think that it's coming to a realistic agreement about your career. So the delusions you had when you signed a terms of service with a work situation, because they said, this is your job description. You thought, I can do that. But now that you're doing it, you're like, wait a minute. But do I have any time with my spouse, any time at home, any time with my children? Like, where did I make a mistake? So you're going to pull back a little bit and reassess either the job or the career path you're on in order to come to a more realistic balance in your life. And by the way, that's all you ever look for is balance, right? So go for it. That's important. There's a bit of a suggestion of the fog clearing about whether or not you're going to be pregnant, your partner's pregnant, or you're about to be a grandparent. If you're uncertain or there's uncertainties or some kind of fog of unsureness, then between now and December 13th, you or your partner are pregnant or your child is having a child. There's more clarity coming your way about those things, and maybe a bit of a surprise. For instance, your spouse has not told you that they're pregnant. That would be your female spouse, technically, because only egg bearers make babies inside a womb. I can't believe that political correctness was still around 2 years ago. All right, sperm donors, if you have an egg bearer and that egg bearer doesn't tell you she's pregnant, then don't be surprised, because this has a little bit of that pulling back the wool over everyone's eyes, and you discover that you have a baby coming. Okay, that's a possibility. Thanks for listening to that. Let's move on to the next story. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. The sky tells me you are having some clarity and fog removal about your job or your health. Now, when I talk about your job, it's usually a work job situation, like not self-employment. 6th house is where you're a servant to somebody else, or you have your employees and they're your servants. So that kind of thing is now becoming clear as the illusion of Borosisi and the fiction and the lies we can tell ourselves are contracting and pulling back for clarity. At the same time, you have Saturn. What dreams come true are you looking to create in your career? What are you looking to make happen in your job and work? With Jupiter in your 10th house for a year, starting June 30th, you are golden, 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 golden to get the career you want. With the South Node, you have to let go of a career first in order to open up to a possibly important new career path. And it could even involve parenting, because Jupiter rules children and your 5th house of children. And maybe you want to become a stay-at-home mom or dad for a while. And that could be beautiful for some of you. But I'm saying there is a calibration around what one wants to do in career and job. Yet Jupiter says, I got you. It'll be the perfect thing. I'm watching out for you. We've got this. Don't worry. I'll bring you money when you need it, Jupiter says. So as you change careers or shift your goals in your career and your work job situation, and you're more realistic and sober-minded about it, then you're going to also be rewarded by Lord Jupiter. So it's okay to make those changes. It's safe to do that. You could come into some inheritance under the sky in the next 5 months. Kaboom! There's a bit of money coming your way. You can pay off all your debts, and you can choose a career direction that's more satisfying. You may have been going through some challenges to your health or your emotional health. Saturn and Neptune here. debts, payments of debts burdening you, for example, or just emotional compression at the pace of work or the grind of your work, and maybe even wanting to escape into beer or weed or something after work. You got the signature of like, I got to get through the day. Thank God it's Friday. Let me party hard, or let me escape into some fantasy or Netflix binge when I can, evenings and weekends. And that's going to change. That's going away. That's stopping now. And there's a new pattern emerging the July 7th to December 13th, completely something different, something entirely new. So don't stress out about it. It's going to change. If you have a pet, your pets belong to the 6th house. Neptune retrograde is about clarity. Like say you think I'm going to get a Mastiff, and all of a sudden your delusion is done because you live in a 400 square foot studio apartment and you have this clear understanding you need a Chihuahua. So there is this kind of new clarity and less delusion about pets in general. And if a pet was having a health challenge, or you've been having a health challenge, the fog of confusion about what the heck's wrong with you becomes clarified, and you have realistic structures and steps to take now to improve your physical well-being, especially anything to do with your head. This is an Aries part of the chart. Like no one knows why you're having headaches or whatever goes on with your head. There's a possibility that you can clear the challenges to your health, or an ongoing fever or inflammation or rash. And now the solution can be discovered. And the fantasy delusion of what was wrong with you is removed. All right. You've got wings that are melting in the 9th house. Do you really want to be on purpose? Do you want to go higher education, university or college, an agenda for you? Have you been reaching in that direction? Have you been reaching for success in the word international? Have you been trying to get a book published or a book publishing deal? And this is where your wings have been melting, right? Too close to the top, searing hot heat on waxy wings, and down you go to earth. Icarus story. A sibling too older than you may be melting down, or their presence in your life is melting you down, or a sibling 4 younger, their sibling melting wings as well. I will say that with Aspeluth here, the inner knowing, inner seer is probably someone you need to ask for help from. The 9th house are the hands of the king, the advisors, the mentor, the coach, the therapist, the guide, the preacher, the pastor, the rabbi. Whoever you consult for guidance has a prescience, a seer-like absolute ability to help you out by being able to tune in and see for you what you don't see for yourself. So this is a call to reach out for guidance as needed, and between now and December 13th, including therapeutic if it helps. Okay. But it could be a shaman, for goodness sakes. Chiron comes back into your 6th house. He'll be there, September 17th, and he'll still be there until the December 13th. So September to mid-December, Chiron's trying to line you up with purpose, get you on board with life's purpose. Whatever that Jupiter wants in your career is good for you. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent, whether you're going to move into a new educational path and learn something, and so you spend a year back at school, whether you're going to travel the world and go on a big vacation because you need to be a vagabond, you want a pilgrimage time, it can offer that up. There's a lot about what Jupiter wants to give you. He exalts your house of pilgrimages, exalts your house of learning. He owns your house of children and therefore parenting. You want to become an entrepreneur? This is the same story. The clarity that says I can become a successful entrepreneur and this is what I want to offer the world can be available for your understanding July 7th to December 13th. Thanks, Scorpio. All right, Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. Neptune retrograde is pulling you back from illusion and delusion and borsici, the lies you tell yourself regarding your children, regarding your sex life and romantic life, regarding what brings you joy, fun, inspiration, and pleasure, but especially inspiration and enthusiasm, what lights your divine spark, what lights your muse, and the lies you've told yourself about your entrepreneurial creations, or the lies your children have told themselves, or even you, because this can be also very much about one of your children. If you think to yourself, oh, my son or my daughter is so deluded about that romantic partnership they're in, or about their relationship with their job or children. If you have a perspective that one of your children is self-deluded, there's hope here, because this is the undiluting of that child. They will have some sobriety of clarity that can have functional results for them, Saturn. And it's almost like they can lay the tracks for the reality train to follow once they know which direction the train is supposed to go in. Should I divorce my spouse or stay with him? You might think your spouse is a narcissist, right? So it's really that kind of clarity for a child that you're able to witness in motion on through till December 13th for sure. Now, your romantic life, right? Your Aries 5th house, falling in love. It's interesting because Saturn, Neptune would like to bring you a dream come true type of love story. And yet, and you've been wounded there since 2019, Chiron's wounded your sex, love, and romance stories, your creative and art of expression and entrepreneurial endeavors, maybe even wounded your relationship with your children in general that you had felt wounded. And now you're kind of, and had health challenges, and now you're kind of like, okay, we don't have Chiron there. It's a pure story in the onset. You're trying to figure out what it is you want to dream into being because the 5th house is a manifestation house. If you're born with the Lord of the 5th house in the 1st house or the Lord of the 1st house in the 5th house, those are manifestation charts, okay? It's kind of where your divine spark is, and it's where your natural gifts and talents that you're born to express exist. Your natural born intelligence belongs to the 5th house. And in this consideration, with the delusional and self-deluded factor leaving, your muse might be coming up with ideas that could be serialized. Like if you're a writer, you're going to see the idea of a trilogy because Saturn says serialization, or, you know, a project that you think is a one-off becomes a gateway to repeated work in the same creative entrepreneurial field. Like you go for an audition or modeling audition or acting audition, and you think you're getting cast in a bit role. Next thing you know, you're supporting actor in the show, and they want you to come back for season 2. There's something like that here for you, a turning of that tide. There is this feeling in the 5th house that you're looking for joy, not pleasure. And Saturn is compression and anxiety and boredom, sometimes, and depression and anxiety. And with the moon, there's emotional discontent, right? But don't take your, like, I'm frustrated with my art, I'm frustrated with my muse, I'm frustrated with my entrepreneurial direction. Personally, there could be a divine discontent here, a deeper discontent, because the things you've been trying to create are bringing you low-level satisfaction. They're not bringing you deep joy or enthusiasm or inspiration. And so something better is trying to come to you, and you'll be less deluded and more sure by December what those areas of life would be, what they will be, right? Okay, I'm going to say if you're single and you're looking for a relationship, if you're already married, you'll get more serious and realistic about what your needs are in the romantic and sexual part of the chart. Okay, there's that. And you might also get more realistic about your approach to your own children or grandchildren. But if you're looking for a relationship, that Venus fire trine to the whole sign Aries sky can indicate a new love story wants to come in. Neptune says soulmate, Saturn says younger or older by minimum of 7 years. And Venus with Jupiter could bring you somebody from a foreign country, foreign land, or foreign shore, spiritual community or academic setting, where that love story germinates from. Pilgrimages as well. Meeting somebody on the El Camino this summer, right? That's an example. Because you have a shock and awe in the 7th house, which is marriage. If you're already married, then it could be a shocking change of status in your life regarding marriage, including legal action and a realistic appraisal that this is not going to work out. Like your partner doesn't want to have sex in the last 5 years, and you're like, I'm out of here. I mean, not making this stuff up, because Saturn compresses your sex life right now and will till April of next year, and started to do that a little bit last summer and fully came back there again this year. So you might be feeling like null and void, nothing happened here in my bedroom with my love partner. And there may be a shocking desire to be realistic about the outcome and change it up, meaning separate, divorce. But if you're single, you can come into somebody new. Be careful a little bit. Neptune can bring you that rose-colored glasses. The good news is the retrograde is less likely to be rose-colored glasses and more bifocals with good clarity on the fine print, so you can see what it is you need to see about that relationship, and you don't get confused, and you go in with a clear-eyed view of what's realistic here. Okay, last but not least, watch out for your wings melting in your stock markets, your banking, your loans, your mortgages, your credit cards, your inheritance money, and spousal support agreements, separation. Watch for you getting burned here. Your wings are melting. You're reaching too high. If you're trying to divorce someone, don't ask for everything. Well, you can try, but you're probably not going to get it. Consult somebody of knowledge. There's the lawyer Athena down here, looking at that wings that are melting in a shared resources and money house. Don't expect that you can grab it all, maybe. And then, of course, there's Aspalus. I'm not giving you financial advice. This is just astrology. Aspalus is here, looking to have someone who has foresight to guide you in the 8th house would be an occultist. So you're going to go to an astrologer, you should, a tarot card reader, a psychic reader, in order to have clarity about decisions you're making about money, about creativity, entrepreneurship, marriage, shared separation agreements, in-law money, or inheritance money. Okay, you want to go get some guidance from somebody. That's what this is telling me. So it will support you successfully to make the right decisions. I really will. Because ultimately, some of you might also, in the whole aftermath of this thing, look like you're changing your city, your town, or your neighborhood. Some of you may be getting ready for a move as well. Look for mid-September to mid-December, feeling really in the crunchy crucible of your sexual love and romantic wounds, or your fertility wounds, or wounds with a child that you have. Okay, that's a crunchy time when Chiron gets back there, and we still have Saturn and now Neptune retrograde. But you have a sober, realistic assessment of how to deal with that crunchy feeling, and you will do that. Capricorn, 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 Sun, Moon, and Rising. I think you're looking at this realistic appraisal with no self-deluded lies about your life at home, about your childhood, about your parents. Your home life is either where you live or who you live with, and you're absolutely realistic in a way that's formidable because you have pulled back the tide on the self-told lies or the delusions or the rose-colored glasses that you put on your very own face and refuse to take off. Now you have to appraise this situation about domicile and home, or childhood and family of origin, or your own choices about who you live with or where you live. Because this is all happening in the 4th house, it's very interior. You're not telling the public. You're maybe like lying on your pillow at night thinking about it. You might be taking, at the end of a workday, time to contemplate these things between now, July 7th and December 13th. And because we have this contraction with the moon in the house of the mother, there may be some significant discoveries that are eyeballs on the story of your mom and your own appraisal of your relationship to her or her own life. Women and females in general are on your mind, and also long-term mates and potential for long-term mates are included. The moon represents the feminine and rules your house of marriage and commitment, and Jupiter has just left there. You might have had more than one person you had your eye on, or more than one person had their eye on you in the last year, wondering if this is a commitment or not. Mercury retrograding now in the house of long-term love and marriage will bring back spousal or committed monogamous people from the past back to you to reassess if the relationship is truly done. And you'll be reassessing that through till the end of July. So while we have Neptune retrograde on July 7th through to the end of July, you're likely going to note that you're having a realistic appraisal of past relationships based on a clearing of childhood patterns and wounds. And that from that realism, you can use that imaginal realm to lay the reality tracks for a new home, a new committed love story, an old love story coming back for a reassessment and maybe a second try. Now, because you have some shock and awe in your 6th house, or maybe an unexpected development regarding where you live with realistic outcomes and long-term advantages connected to rental property opportunities. And out of the blue, shockingly, you have an opportunity to rent some home. Now, I say rental, but it could be a pet sitting job as well, given that this is the 6th house. But a locational shift connected to, I don't know, house sitting, pet sitting, or rentals, or being a servant. Somebody needs, I'm not kidding you, someone needs a gardener and they've got a house in the backyard and you know how to garden. So now you've got a place to live connected to a employment opportunity, for example. And the way this is happening for you, 4th house, you're very private usually here. We all are, especially Capricorns. it's what you consider deeply from your alone and home alone energy, especially with Saturn. You're looking for your sage-like wisdom with your alone time to speak to you of what is true and real and desirable, so that you can then make some dreams come true. And primarily, you want to make dreams come true in this sky right here of where you live, secondarily about whom you live with, because you have the option of new employment with that Pluto and Uranus position in the sky. New employment opportunities may be a reason to consider a relocation. And I'm not saying you know the answer, but through to December 13th, your appraisal is clear-eyed and defogged. You have a clear view of what is likely to be possible and true. And you're certainly not going to talk yourself into something delusionally. You're going to go with a straight and clear eyeball on the story, which is wonderful. And if someone's trying to get you to get into buying a pet, or you want to get a pet, then the same thing again. It's about the clear-eyed view of it. And even if you're surprised by the answer, you know, you always thought you wanted a cat, but now you got a dog. The right answer will come to you about what this pet story could look like for you. Watch for the wings are melting in the house of long-term love. Where have you lost your wings, and where have you fallen down from the sky? Because you have put a lot of stock in partnership with others, whether those are business partnerships or long-term love partners. And where has a long-term love partner in your life had his or her wings melt from their own energetic overreach, especially with Jupiter having been in the partnership house for a year? You might have seen your long-term love partner or significant other doing very well, like in their life, succeeding, having plenty of advancement, money, prosperity, whatever they wanted, but they also had their wings melt, and they're kind of taking a toll on them. And ask Belusis to consult the seer. If there's somebody that you can consult, a tarot reader, an advisor, a guide, someone with intuitive inner knowing, this is you will consult anyway in the next 5 years, those types of people regarding decisions around home and relationship and career and ultimately identity. You won't do this alone. You're going to consult some sort of oracular guidance. That's what I have for you. If you're trying to move somewhere, ultimately, I would say look to strategic decisions. Athena, moon is a new home, of course. And the moon is a last quarter moon. And so wherever you move in a last quarter moon is going to involve last quarter themes of completion, of looking for a refinement of one's mission through a relocation. Saturn says isolation. Aries says remote and frontiering places, you know, often a far off remote place. Neptune could involve water bodies, and Saturn can involve rocky shores or high places. So those are some things that may be in alignment, and just Aries can bring heat, but also that sense of remote or frontiering as well, in terms of what kind of place you may be offered to move to for professional reasons, or that you may want to move to once you understand how, where, and why a move is possible. Okay. All right. So Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. This tells me that you are thinking very strongly of doing some sort of redefinition of your long-range goal, redefinition of your visions and goals and dreams in a practical, realistic way around everything third house. It's a busy cadent house. It could be writing projects, things with arms and hands, skills-based learning, skills-based teaching. Could be marketing and selling, could be websites and social media land. Neptune here gives you access to success in the social media landscape on videography platforms, especially like YouTube. And Neptune is pulling back some tide of frothy self-delusion and lies that have been told to you by others or yourself. Now, as this is clarifying for you between now and December the 13th, and the tide is pulling back, and the windshield wiper is clear, and there's no fog on the windshield anymore, you've defogged your windshield. As you're doing that, you're also noticing the Saturnian lunar energies kind of baked in, which is kind of a discontent emotionally, a decompression, a compression chamber of some kind. Yet the moon is in her joy in your third house. This is her joy house. So something really good is trying to happen, because the moon is very celebratory here. She's like the gossip girl, but she's also the seer. And this is the house of seership itself. So your own ability to be a seer paired with Neptune is superior, bar none, exceptional right now. But Saturn is about mastery. So time perseverance and mastery in building a new skill, learning a new skill, teaching a skill, seership and divination tools as well. I'm going to use me as an example, Aquarius rising. I'm studying a year-long certification in Vedic astrology. I'm learning a new skill to do with seership. And this requires discipline, and the rose-colored glasses that come off is probably my recognition in the next 5 months of the time commitment it's going to take, because my teacher, Aswin, is testing us every like 4 weeks. It's not like I can just catch up at the end of the course. So there's examples. If you are in any social media environment at all, then this is definitely going to be a really sober, realistic look at what it is you wish to create in that environment. Okay? This is sober realism in the life of a sibling, including a sibling, especially one younger than you, as they come to some sober and realistic assessments of what they want to achieve in their life and their own long-range goals and dreams. And it will impact you because it sextiles you. Your Pluto, you're all-knowing, all-powerful, suffer fools know gladly, let divine power move through you. And your Juno, you're looking for business partners and long-term committed love partners, and that's true to the end of this year, minus a short break in August, September, October or something. You got Juno on the brain. You want a partner in love, you want a partner in business, you want partners in life. And so that's a mindset you're under this year, Aquarians, fellow Aquarians, especially rising. Sun, you want business partners. Aquarian moon, you want partners at home and domestic matters, maybe. But that's a vibe. Now, I bring that up because this combination is looking at the third house. So in regards to that, Jupiter moving here for a year through your seventh house, sextile in the romance house, can bring you a shocking, sudden new relationship between July 7th and December 13th. But because of the activation of the third house, it may be somebody that you would consider a neighbor or close to your neighborhood, or you meet them on a trip, or it comes from an introduction from a sibling, or it connects to some childhood friendships and people you've known in the past. And if you meet somebody under any of these circumstances, then one thing I'll tell you is it's going to be reliably realistic. Although Saturn could say the person is 7 to 8 years older or younger than you, minimum difference of age. The realism is baked into it. Any meeting of somebody new, July 7th to end of December, mid-December, you're good to go. You're good to go. And the trine to Venus in the whole sign trine from this to Venus up here indicates, again, very dreamy soulmate energy with baked in sober realism about what this really is. So you're not likely to fall madly, crazily in love over some delusion is what I'm saying. And finally, you'll see a little bit of Chiron coming back mid-September to mid-December, Chiron returning back to the wounds of the third house, right? Writing, teaching, learning, marketing, selling. Of course, I'll be teaching Sky Reader right in the middle of it. I'll probably be going, oh my God, this is a lot of work. But come join me there. It may be the last time I teach it, actually. I should say that as a sales tactic, but it might be because I want to write my astrology book with my agent, Eileen. Hi, Eileen. And finally, this. Where are your wings melting in your job, in your work, in your health, in regards to your pets or your debts? So I don't have pets or debts, but I have work. I have employees, I have vendors, I have me working my ass off. And so there's something for people like me to consider. Where is your work melting your wings, and where do you feel like you're about to or have fallen? The assessment of that condition will be predominant through to mid-December. Am I falling? Am I melting? Is it sustainable? Especially with the North Node trining the Icarus, you want to go higher and higher and higher and higher for more and more and more and more success, money, everything, Arta success. But the melting wings are giving you a warning. And I want to be really clear. This is a sickness house. And the last thing any of us fellow Aquarians do is need to work way too hard and get way too sick. So I'm not saying we're going to be sick. We need to be cautious. Consulting the oracle. And by the way, Mercury retrograde to July the 23rd. We're also looking at the past. We're looking at the way we've done it in the past, people from the past, employees from the past, jobs from the past. Maybe we will actually go backwards in time to something we've done before. But that aside, the seer absolute is here, and that is somebody you can consult about your career decisions, about your health. Go to the seers and the intuitives for guidance. Funny, I tried to book a tarot reading with a guy online. I really like him. I'm not even going to say who he is because you guys all run to see him. and I couldn't get it to process. Like I was trying to use my Apple Pay and there was problems. And so I'm going to try it again on my laptop, but I'm already feeling the urge to consult the seers and the guidance out there. And so if you're in the same boat and you're feeling some kind of need to get consultation guidance, then please do it. All right, go for it. You may have some shocking developments regarding one of your children under this pullback here, but it would be your children regarding third house themes, maybe to do with neighbors, neighborhood, children, travel, but mostly everything I said is more truly about what this is in the first part of the story. All right, so good luck with that, Aquarians. If I have any bottom basement bargain guidance for you, Saturn is flowing to you and he's giving you the gains of the work he did here in your second house for almost 3 years, right? March of 23 till his final exit that just happened in February. He's trying to help you save money, structure money, sustainably resource your finances, and on and on. Now he's giving you the gains of that process. And this is often a very profitable time when Saturn leaves anybody's second house. It depends on your natal Saturn's position and condition, but after Saturn leaves your second house and moves into the third house, as a general principle, if you've worked well with Saturn in the second, you will be reaping some harvests in the third. So don't worry about that so much. Saturn's presence here, he is a realist. He is hardcore. He's looking at time as an ally, but it's coming up with a realistic vision of what you want to do to create money in your life in a way that's sustainable and satisfying, because that is this combination of stories. The moon says emotional contentment, please, rather than emotional frustration or stress, worry, or anxiety. And the moon is the ruler of all of this work and all of this livelihood stuff over here. So you're going to have to come to terms with where you can shine like the sun in your work without emotional discontent coming with it. All right, that's my guidance for us Aquarians. If you don't work, then it's what are you doing in your everyday daily routines in life that you want to shine and vibrantly in your work, service, and health, even if you're retired. Maybe you're helping in the soup kitchen, maybe you're helping in the neighborhood, whatever you're doing, you're trying to maintain vitality physically and with your health. And you also want to be realistic about what you're able to accomplish. Last but not least, in this nearly 2-hour video, was Pisces Sun, Moon, and Rising. Please put your like it button, clicky dick, guys. I put a lot of love into this video under tech stress as well. So Pisces Sun, Moon, and Rising, Pisces best and always best, never last and never least. This is what I see for you. The second house is your money house, and you are stressed and strained a bit because Saturn here, well, he's doing his best to help you and will do his best to help you through till April of 28. And he's been here now a little bit last summer and back again since February. Saturn wants you to really figure out how to stabilize and sustain a reliable income, save money, and structure if needed, like in corporations. And as he moves through here, he's making you work hard to do that. But at the same time, he's now paired up for the first time in your lifetime with a Neptune retrograding July 7th to December 13th, helping you pull back your own self-delusion on your financial front. Where have you deluded yourself? Where have you swindled yourself into believing something that was unrealistic? Because now Borasisi and Neptune together tell you that those lies you told yourself are clearly no longer true. You can see through your own self-told stories. And now you're facing reality about money. And that's going to be a vibration that's baked in July 7th to December 13th. Earnings, money, job, resources, but fret not. Jupiter in your 6th house, trining this return backwards motion, says luck is on your side for job, employment, work, or employee stories, including hiring employees if you need them, work servants. And this energy says you're going to be okay. And if you felt your health is a challenge in any way, Jupiter's going to protect you in the next year. But where you feel tired or worn down in the work earning sector, the money accumulation sector, or you feel defeated and frustrated, and you've also been worried maybe about health. Health is going to smooth itself out. It's time for you to be more realistic about your finances. That's just what I'm telling you. Be realistic about your finances, and even debt repayment and debt elimination can happen. But you have to be realistic about it all. And that sober realism will also help you redefine new dream come true goals around how much money you have, how you make the money, and where the money comes from. So Jupiter is definitely going to activate a career path that's successful over the next year, but being realistic is the key piece. Being sober-minded about it is the key piece. There is this energy of wings that melt in the fifth house. If you're an artist, a creative, a writer, if you're an entrepreneur, then the melting of your wings here has been or will be stressful. And the muse is here, the inspiration is here. So consult the Oracle Absolutes. Go consult somebody who can give you some guidance about entrepreneurial business. But if you are the Oracle, if your business is to tell the future for others or to guide others with intuitive vision, then this is a sign that this is a good path for you. And you need to be realistic and stabilize it, but watch for the melting wings. Watch for places where you feel like you just pushed yourself too far, because the moon who rules your fifth house is in your second house of money, earnings, resources, voice, vocation, and calling. Do the job of seership or visionary warning bells for the world, but also look to where it is a place where you could feel the wings that melt are taking you down to earth when you wanted to go high to the sky and reach the sun. And you can see the sun is with Icarus. So we're probably going to see some helicopters or planes falling from the sky, as I said in the intro. But you are here to find your perfect spotlight, your perfect illumination of your natural talents and gifts that you were born to express. It came with you in your DNA, and use them in the world in artistic, creative, meaningful, joyful expression. And this is this time where it can also make you money. It's not like I'm an actor and I make no money, but I wait tables. You can get those things to come together, and you'll find the path to make that real between now and December 13th. Chiron comes back to wound you in the money wound that's been here since 2019, money, earnings, and dietary wounds, teeth and face wounds, yes. But Chiron's back again here. Mid-September to mid-December. So you're going to go back and address it once more, and then the grand finale is done. As we get closer to that, finding the piece of you that has emotional worry about money and excising it like a surgeon from your life. And if you do that, I'll tell you how. You get to your childhood. Your chart says childhood stories about money, poverty, scarcity, money, parents fighting about money, parents not supporting you financially, whatever it was. Go back to childhood. You've got a code here: karmic and childhood stories, past lives and childhood stories, parental and past life stories have wounded some of your money stuff. And so maybe you've compromised financially. Maybe you've prostituted yourself in relationships just for the money. Maybe you've been wounded by not being worthy of somebody or something because you didn't have enough money. You and money are recalibrating between now and December 13th. And if you're a Pisces who's got no money issues, that's totally a-okay. You may have dietary issues. You may have wounds around your, binge eating or and anorexia or something. So you're going to recalibrate those wounds as well. If you had teeth wounds, why? Did you eat sugar every day? What are you having to recalibrate around mouth, face, teeth, your face wounds, how you look? You might have a scar removed then in the next 5 months. You remove the scar, you remove an inner wound and an outer wound. So improving the wounds of the face, the dietary habits and styles, but the earnings and money wounds as well. Mother, mater, materia are all the same word. The mater, the mother, the material realm. Second house is a material pentacles place. It's your money and resources. It connects to your job and your career. It's Artha energy. You're going to recalibrate this. And because you've never lived through Neptune and never lived through Saturn together in your sign, it's the first time you've ever had to recalibrate it. And you can recalibrate it with such potency. You can lay the tracks with your Neptunian imagination for the reality money train to follow, the gravy train, right? So this is going to be really an important 5 months for you. If I have any advice for you, don't compromise financially. Don't take money for money's sake. Don't undermine your own ability to resource your own finances successfully. Okay, that's my guidance for all Pisces sun, moon, and rising sign. All right, guys, thanks for listening. This was exceedingly long. I am praying to God and Goddess that I actually recorded the screen share like I thought I did on Riverside Tomorrow I'm going to be on Amrit Sandhu's show for recording. That's a Inspired Evolution, and we'll be putting notices out when that's coming on. We're recording tomorrow. And I'm supposed to be with Emilia Ortez sometime too. We haven't rescheduled. We had a last minute cancellation, but I'm looking forward to talking with some other people about the work I do. So stay tuned for that. I'm really, really jazzed about it. So I'll see you guys soon. And thanks for the long listen, 2 hours long. Hopefully liking, subscribing, hit the notification bell, joining me in Sky Reader this fall, or something that you'll consider doing. Check the description box below for all the information that you need and the down below. Bye.
Lunatic Astrology.